Based on the Next Time trailer from the end of the last episode, in my last review I said that this episode had the potential to be my favourite one yet, just based on the clips we saw in that preview. Well, the verdict is in, and the answer is... I'm not going to give it away that quickly, you just have to hang around a little bit longer and find out. Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel where I talk about all the geeky pop culture that I enjoy and consume. That includes things like Doctor Who and the MCU, various comics, Buffy the Vampire Slayer occasionally Power Rangers, and of course, Star Trek. So if you like any of that stuff, do hit the subscribe button down below. But as I said, we're here to talk about Star Trek today, and we are talking about Lower Decks because, as I do every week, I am reviewing the latest episode. This episode is called Crisis Point. I will be talking non-spoilers very briefly, my general overview of the episode, in which you'll find out whether or not it was my favourite episode so far, as I suspected it had the potential to be. And then we'll talk spoilers a bit later on. I'll give you a fair warning for that though, don't worry. Now, one of the reasons why I thought this might be a really fun episode is that from the previews we knew that there was going to be a holodeck situation where Mariner reprograms Boimler's program of the ship and all the crew for it to be more cinematic and like a movie, and we were going to get lots and lots of references to the Star Trek movie franchise and all of the tropes and things that we know from Star Trek, and there'll be lots of references in it, and we got that. We definitely did. I'll talk about specific ones, my favourite ones, a bit later on in the spoiler section, but we got that, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was very enjoyable stuff. Definitely sold what it said on the tin. What we didn't know going in was what there would be a very personal story, and it was very much Mariner focused. It was another Mariner focused episode. Boimler had his little side plot as well. So once again, it was the Boimler and Mariner show. Tendi and Rutherford once again got relegated to sort of supporting players. So, I mean, that's a bit of a down point on it for me again. It seems to be a recurring criticism I have of the show. It's only been really a handful of episodes where that criticism hasn't applied. And they've never been the sole focus in the way that Mariner and Boimler have. So, I mean, I think it's with the season finale next week, I think it's far too late to expect that to change this season. Hopefully, maybe season 2 they can readjust that balance a bit more and give some more weight to Rutherford and Tendi. But as I was saying, we do get some really nice character stuff from Tendi towards the end of the episode, and I would say I mean, we get it throughout, but I would say it really kicks into gear in the sort of final act of this episode. Before then, it plays into the plot and it's teetering along, but I kind of felt like the first 2/3, my enjoyment came mostly from the references to the movies and the meta jokes and things like that. The sort of heart of the episode and the emotional impact of the episode, the character development, all of that, I felt really kind of only came in the last third of the episode. And that's when it really kicked into gear. So therefore, I would say this didn't quite live up to the potential I thought it might do. The movie stuff, which I thought was going to be a lot of fun, was fun, definitely. It didn't quite play into the plot as much as I thought it would. There was definitely, once they were on the holodeck, a lot of those references, and they were fun, and I enjoyed them. And the stuff with Mariner, the character development that we get for her, was also really good at the end there. But I just kind of felt there was a little bit of a disconnect between the two segments of the episode, and I don't know, it just felt like it didn't kick into gear on the emotional side of things till the end. And the first half was kind of fun, but it wasn't like top-notch television. Some might disagree with me. I don't know. It wasn't a bad episode. This is still going to be up there in my rankings, I think, of episodes. It's just not right at the top. For me, last week's episode has so far been the best episode that we've had so far. So no, it didn't quite get up there for me. But there was still quite a lot of good stuff in there. We've got some lovely, as I said, jokes, meta jokes, and Boimler's story was also kind of interesting. And also, what I liked about this episode is it did move forward the sort of character arcs, not just in terms of Mariner's character development, but just it feels like well, there's something that happens towards the end of the episode that there's no going back from, and it's definitely a progression of the overall dynamic of the group that they can't just walk back. And actually, we've seen in the previews that it plays into the next episode as well. So I liked that as well. We're getting a feeling of progression through the show, of the characters, and I hope next week we get something really significant, as it's the season finale. But we'll have to wait and see. So, spoilers over and done with. Let's talk a bit more details. The opening kind of played into the rest of the episode here, because what we got was Mariner seemingly by herself. I can't remember seeing any other Starfleet down there before the captain and the bridge officers beamed down. But Mariner has helped overthrow some tyrannical regime that has been eating lizard people. And she's very happy about that. She thinks she's going to get praise from her mum, the captain. But when she beams down, she gets told that she's broken the Prime Directive, all that kind of stuff. And that she shouldn't have interfered in that way. The one thing that struck me about there was, like, how did Mariner by herself help overthrow? Because I'm sure there weren't any other Starfleet officers there. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I may just be misremembering that. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention to that opening bit. But there weren't any other Starfleet officers there, were there? So it was just her and the lizard people had overthrown their captors, their tormentors, the people that eat the lizard people, the rat creatures. So that felt a little bit odd that she was there by herself doing that. Yes, she would go off by herself, but just the fact that just the presence of Mariner had helped them overthrow it. Maybe she just encouraged them to do the work. I don't know. We didn't see that. Obviously, we got thrown into right at the end. But it did set up a nice conflict between the captain and her mum and her, where she gets told to go to therapy because she's always railing against authority. So instead of sending her to the brig, which she sort of expects and wants, she gets sent to therapy, which she doesn't like. The therapy scene was quite funny. I found the therapist amusing, that he has a thing where he always talks in food metaphors and cooking metaphors, which is really annoying, and plays in again later on in the episode as well when we get another scene with him. That was good. But the real meat of the episode starts when they're on the holodeck. I love the fact that holodeck they're just hanging out, on a shooting clay pigeons with Da Vinci, of all people. Nice reference there, because obviously Da Vinci is a character that I think Janeway used to go on the holodeck with quite a lot, so nice reference back there. And yeah, it's nice. It gets a nice little moment, and again that plays in later on when right at the end of the episode we get a little. It's not post credit, but it could almost be a post credit scene where holographic Mariner, bad guy Mariner, wakes up from something and he's just like, nope, and he's there with his gun, and Da Vinci's there with his gun. It's a nice little thing. They're like, oh yeah, we could have another rogue AI hologram going mad that she's created through her program, but nope, Da Vinci's there to stop it. That was nice. I like that. But then Boimler, of course, comes in and, shuts down that holodeck program and starts up his own, which is a complete recreation of the ship and the crew based on their personal logs. And as one of the other characters point out, hold on, aren't they meant to be personal? So Boimler breaking the rules a little bit there. But he's basically created it so that he can do well on a job interview, because he can then have a test interview, and all these characters he's created should, based on the algorithms, act exactly like the characters would in real life, the real life people would. So he, is planning on, having a mock interview with this holographic captain, so that he then does really well. He can test out what she will respond well to and do really well in the actual interview. But that's far too boring for Mariner. She wants to do something more fun, so she reprograms it to be very movie-like, and that's where we start to get the really fun little references to the movie franchise. We get Mariner puts herself in the role of the bad guy who is attacking, and sets up the rest of her, the lower decks foursome as meant to have been her minions on the enemy ship that is attacking the Cerritos. But Boimler doesn't play ball and actually stays on the holographic ship, so there ends up being a fake sort of supplementary holographic Boimler type character who was meant to be played by Boimler, who gets killed like straight away. And we just get so many fun little references to the movies, right from the recreating the credits, the credit style where the text appears and it zooms towards them and then it hits them on the head as well, which is quite funny. We get some references to, Mariner playing the bad guy is constantly reciting, is it Shakespeare? Classic, I think it was Shakespeare, but, classic, yes, because it was The Tempest, wasn't it? She was reciting The Tempest. So that whole bad guy reciting classic British, classic, not British necessarily, but classic Earth literature is a thing. Obviously, Khan did it as well. He did Shakespeare and Moby Dick. So lots of things there. Nice little references. What were some of my other favourite references? Oh, lens flares. Yeah, we get the lens flares as well, which was really nice. And, of course, the extenuously long, painfully long flying towards the ship in a shuttle and admiring the ship sequence, which we, of course, most famous from the motion picture, but also in other subsequent movies as well, to a lesser degree. Just went on, they go on far too long, and they played with that, and they made sure you knew that it was going on far too long, and that was the joke as well. Lots of very different angled, sweeping cinematic shots of the ship and things like that as well. So all those type of references, there are so many more I could list. I'm not going to sit here and list them all, but I love them all as like meta references, and they were very, very fun. Boimler throughout all of this is staying with the captain because he wants to keep on asking the captain questions. So this whole film plot scenario where Mariner is the bad guy, marauder, pirate type person, and the Cerritos is attacking them and they're attacking the Cerritos. That's all going on, but Boimler's there kind of interrupting the captain during this mission with completely arbitrary questions like what's your favourite cookie and things like that, just so that he can do well in the interview, and he's trying to suss out what to say in the interview. So Boimler keep on popping in and this, and it kind of plays into his character quite nicely, the kiss ass type character, and that he's really focused on promotion and wants to rise through the ranks and will do anything he can to get there within reason. So he's kind of just not taking this whole movie plot seriously, and he's just asking those and keeps on interrupting, which it has a lot of really funny scenes of him doing that. And that's all very fun stuff, and it's all very enjoyable, and it's all very entertaining, but it's just not quite as I'm trying to think of the right word. It's very, there's not much substance to it. It's just kind of going on. It's like amusing, fun stuff going on. But what is boiling underneath it is the fact that Mariner is you effectively, and what gets revealed towards the end is that she's kind of working through her own issues through this program, and that really starts to kick into gear in the sort of last act of it. We get the realization of Tendi in particular that Mariner actually does need a bit of help, and she's maybe getting a bit too into this when she starts being really gleeful. Mariner's really gleeful with the fact that she's killing the crew and going to kill her mother. She's not just going to stun her, she's going to do so much worse, she says. And Tendi at that point is like, you're like, really? And at that point, we also get the fact that, Mariner is a little bit, racist towards Tendi here, because she's, stereotypes her as the Orion slave warrior, or whatever it is, that she says something about, oh yeah, you're Orion, all Orions are, like that. And just the fact that she had defaulted to this stereotype of Orions as pirates and as slavers, that's how they've been portrayed in Star Trek most of the time. But she's worked alongside Tendi and knows Tendi isn't like that. So to keep that stereotype up, despite that, it shows a not particularly pleasant side to Mariner that is seeping through because of her own issues, and because she's so focused, so singly focused on dealing with her own issues, that she's letting that kind of attitude slip in when really she knows it's not right. And Tendi rightly gets pretty offended by this and storms off the holodeck. I thought that was interesting that they dealt with that, because one thing Star Trek itself has a habit of doing in the past is presenting whole planets worth of people as all having the same sort of personality and all having the same sort of attributes to them. And modern Star Trek hopefully has started to break that down a little bit. And I think this is one of the things of doing that. I mean, because like even with TNG, when you had Worf be a member of the be a member of Starfleet, even though he was Klingon and Klingons had always been portrayed as this warrior race, he still kept most of those Klingon qualities, most of those warrior culture type things. He was still very much the same type of Klingon, but just not a bad guy. And here Tendi is very different from all the Orions that we've seen before. So in one respect, yes, she kind of fills that Worf role of being the out of place person, the person that you don't usually see on a Starfleet ship. But in another respect, she isn't fulfilling it in the same way Worf did, whereas he kept a lot of the Klingon culture and he still was a stereotypical Klingon. There is nothing about Tendi that is stereotypical, and I really like that. So it's nice that they reference that here and they dealt with it, and we get a nice apology later on, although I think the apology was a bit too easily forgiven by Tendi. It was kind of like she kind of braved it off and was like, yeah, okay, we are most, up until 5 we are mostly slavers, we were slavers, yeah. I think they could have done more to emphasize the fact that they're not all slavers, and yeah, okay, they have a reputation for being those, but that's just because could have gone into something about the loudest ones, the ones that get noticed but that's not most of our culture. That would have been a nice commentary on just general culture generally. The people that shout the loudest are the people that get noticed and then stereotyped as that group, whereas most of that group aren't like that usually. And then the episode really kicks into gear, and the stuff that I really like is all contained within the bit where after Mariner confronts her mother on the bridge, when she confronts the captain, that's when we start getting the really good character development for Mariner. We start seeing what she, the kind of pent up rage she has for her mother and the resentment she has for her mother all coming out. She starts to voice it all, and she treats it like this ends up being a therapy session for her, and she manages to vent all of this stuff that she's probably been holding in for a long time. And then it gets even better. I mean, the stuff with her mother is good, but then holographic Mariner arrives. And of course, Boimler has programmed these characters to act exactly like they would in real life. So Mariner, holographic Mariner, comes in to beat Pirate Mariner, played by the real Mariner, and she's faced with the realizations that nobody else can make her realize, because she is confronting herself with them, literally. And I think it's just such a great metaphor in there that a lot of the time, in order to people can tell you stuff till they're blue in the face about yourself, but you won't accept it necessarily until you confront yourself with it. And we get some lovely character development from her with that, and we get to see how actually the other side of her, the holographic Mariner, does love her mother, will protect her mother, and isn't selfish. She will distract her and sacrifice herself to save everyone else on the crew. And even as much as real Mariner denies that and goes, no, I just want to have fun, she knows that it's not really real, and she accepts that after this. So I think we see some nice character growth from her here. It's really good stuff. So although it had that really, really nice section at the end there, and I really, really appreciate the character development we got from Mariner here, it's still, if the episode had been more of that, I think it might have been higher up. but for me, it's kind of still a really good episode, and that bit makes it definitely. And the stuff I thought that was going to make it a really good episode was just kind of, hey, that's nice fun references. But it was still a really good episode. Like I say, Tendi and Rutherford got a bit neglected here. Rutherford's bit with his boss is quite nice, where he, goes, I'm going to tell him what I really think of him, because I can't, because it's a holographic. And the stereotypical thing is you think, oh, he's going to go and tell him he hates him. But of course, I don't think any of us really thought he was going to do that, because we know Rutherford and he's generally just this really sweet guy. So he goes up to him and is like, everyone thinks you're the best in Starfleet. Well, I'm here to tell you, you really are the best. Well done. And I've wanted to tell you that for a long time. And it was just a nice little moment. I mean, we kind of knew that's what was going to happen, but the way it was played was also really nice. There was also a few nice references back to stuff that had happened earlier on in the season. We get the guy that we saw doing a one-man show at one point. I can't remember what episode it was, but we saw him doing a one-man show in the bar. Somebody in one of the corridors in the hologram references that and goes, hey, I really enjoyed your one-man show. Just little internal continuity things like that. There was also, in the holographic world, Boimler tries to give the captain some cookies, and it ends up being cookies with an ingredient that she's allergic to. So somebody tackles him to the ground and throws him off a cliff, I think. So kills him in the holographic world. And I think that was the same character who, I haven't checked this, but I think it was the same character who was the ex-boyfriend of Boimler's girlfriend in the episode where Boimler had a girlfriend. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it was. So that was a nice little reference back there, because he already had this sort of animosity towards this guy, because he was a bit jealous of him because he had previously dated his girlfriend, and now he's jealous. This guy's getting all the praise from the captain for rescuing her from an assassination attempt by cookies that would kill her. And he's like, really? So that was a nice little callback too. And we get a few of those as well. So coming towards the end of the season, it kind of feels like they're nicely referencing back. And we feel like, especially with the Mariner development as well, it feels like we've actually gone on a bit of a journey and grown with these people so far. That, they're referencing to stuff that had happened earlier. We're getting the development. I hope we really get something nice next episode for the season finale. Some really good character development and stuff. Hopefully with Mariner and her mum, maybe, because although that was the focus of this episode, Boimler now knows. Oh, that's the other thing, of course. Boimler, in the hologram, stumbles across the information that Mariner is the captain's daughter. And that completely messes up his interview, because in the hologram, he finds out that the captain, if she found out that anybody knew, would immediately transfer them off the ship, get them kicked out of Starfleet to try and protect their secret, because he doesn't want people to know. And that, of course, makes him really, really nervous for the interview, and he ends up accidentally calling Mariner hot in the interview and end up just running away from the interview. So he completely messes that up. But also from the preview, it looks like it's going to play into next episode. He brings it up and tells Mariner that he knows, and is teasing her about it. So I think it'll play a little bit into next week as well. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I want something big character-wise from the season finale. I don't necessarily want a big, the universe might end type season finale. I want a big thing, something significant happen character-wise. And it would be nice to get some stuff from, of course, I always say this, but Rutherford and Tendi as well. So there you go. That's what I thought of this episode. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. I will see you next week for another Star Trek Lower Decks review. And please do like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll see you then. Bye-bye.